is Margaret Ann Windsor. Um, I've made some videos before. I don't know if anybody has watched them. That's my real name. Peggy Ann Childers is the name they gave me when they kidnapped me and brought me to Moulton, Alabama, out of Buckingham Palace. Uh, I suppose what really gets me is to sit here at 74 and a half years old and had the crimes committed on a daily basis against me and my children, my father and mother that did all they could to get me back, and the British and Germans, some of my family there. Some of my Windsor family were the ones that kidnapped me, and I'm going to go and be redundant here if you watched any of the former videos. My Uncle George VI, Elizabeth's father, helped Joseph Kennedy, who was then ambassador to England, 36 till they kicked him out in 46, helped kidnap me, plan my kidnapping, and part of what is now called the New World Order. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the president then, excuse me, the Bilderbergers, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, the one that control the New World Order. They control the media out of New York. They control the media, period. So they kidnapped me. My father was King Edward VIII. He was the legal king, and I am the legal monarch. I'm his child, born in 39, kidnapped in 41. So I'm going to go ahead with just a bit of what's been done to me here. It's been on a daily basis, and quite frankly, I don't see how I can make it. I mean, they're talking about gassing people. It wasn't okay to use everything in the book on me: gas, psychological warfare, illegal medicine, which is poison when administered to you for the purpose of harassment and torturing and making you look like a crazy person. That's how they've tried to portray me. So I'm going to say that I had my children, and Mark is the legal heir after me. He was born in 59. Scott was born the next year in 60. A couple of years later, I was living in Huntsville, Alabama, the Space Center. I went to a doctor there because I was feeling blue. His name was Hyman Miller. He was a Jew from New York. His wife was a German Jew. And they lived in luxury there in Huntsville. They even had her portrayed, his wife, later in the Huntsville Times, with all her expensive drawings and portraits and art collection. And later I find that my mom is Claudia Ruth O'Keefe Windsor, married to my father, King Edward VIII. And my aunt is Georgia O'Keefe, the artist. So I want you to compare that alone, and the lifestyle they lived and what happened to me. He knew who I am before I did. The statements that I look back that he made, he absolutely knew that my name was Margaret Ann Windsor and what was being done to me, and he helped. Now, is it okay for the Jews to do this to me? No, it's not. And to my family, that it disrupted, and you can't, the psychological warfare is unreal, the pain and suffering relationships. Anyway, Dr. Miller, I went to him because I was blue after I'd had the children and a couple of years later. So he put me on Valium, and I'm going to go ahead and say this. I've told the truth. I'm waiting to hear it back before I die. A friend of mine's name was Peggy, and she won't mind if she's still alive, and I don't know if she is. Her name was Peggy Peggy Ferguson Lauderdale. I can remember her coming to me and asking, did she went to Dr. Miller. She said, did he rape you? She said, he raped me. Um, she said he made me look at a vent, and she described the same thing that had happened to me. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's what you find in your pets when you get home and you don't remember it, that what happened to me. Same thing happened to her. I didn't tell her that it had happened to me. I just left it as it was. Um, Now, this man said he started me on Valium. It was not long later that I suddenly just, and I know now that the only thing that was wrong with me was the government harassing me, like in MK Ultra. That's exactly who, the feds, and turning me into a zombie. They can do that with the real Queen of England, and when I find out that I'm the Queen of England in '83, all this is past and done, at least that part of it. Because if you say you're a monarch or they'll say you're crazy. Well, I didn't even know that until '83 when the Brits told me, and some Germans. So back to Dr. Miller, the Jew. Am I allowed to say that? Maybe you'd like to be hooked up to electrodes and your brain worked and given shots, drive shots, and be reaching out because you're in so much damn pain. You can't stand it. You're being locked up. Your husband's taking, I found out he was with the CIA later. He takes you for your couple of shock treatments after then. So I don't know how many I had. They went after my brain. I do remember this went on. I do remember my husband standing holding my hands while Dr. Miller, the killer, exactly who he is. He was. Somebody got him, thank God. Oh, back in '80, when again they put antifreeze in me. April the 1st, good old joke, you got the Queen of England, you're going to do a lobotomy on her. And they almost did. But back to Dr. Miller. My husband was taking me in for the weekly shock, sometimes two. So I'm a zombie, and I was put on Thorazine, Meloril, Seconal to sleep, a zombie. And everybody should try one shock treatment, especially when they don't need it, when it's torturing me. And that's exactly it. Diagnosis murder. Anything I said after then, he wrote it down as paranoid schizophrenic. Now, this is your good Jew. And look at the treaties that were signed after I was kidnapped in '41. And I've got to, if I turn this around, it's to look at the time. So I've got this on the tape. My husband held my hand many times during the shock while I was being put to sleep under. And I remember him looking down in my face and saying, chicken licking, you're going to tell them the sky is falling, but they won't listen. He said, you'll beg them to help you, and they won't hear you. And I've forgotten now how he finished it, like chicken licking begged for people to bake the bread, and they wouldn't, but they all wanted to eat out of it after. You can follow me. So I'm going to jump from there to this went on for years. And during this time, one of my relatives showed up. I was this was in '63, and God help him, I hope he's okay. His name was Count von Spiegelfeld. He was working at Pizette's in Huntsville. It was a new department store. I was hired by him and the manager. And you don't find a count, I think he's from Austria, working as assistant manager at Pizette's. He was introduced by the manager to us. We had just gone to, it was new, and we'd just gone to work. And he said, you didn't know we had royalty working for us, did you? Now I know that he was not only referring to him, he was referring to me, but I didn't know that at the time. Now this was my friend. This was a German relative. Um, these are the people who helped me. These were good people, not the people and the cowards here in this country have stood by and relished and made a joke. I was in the store here in Roanoke the other day. I can hardly walk. And the man was talking loud right at me. He started. So everybody around here knows what's been done to me, who I am. It's a raging joke. And he was talking to this woman really loud, and he said, you know, those Brits didn't know what spam was till America brought it over there, and they just ate it up. They couldn't get enough of it. He went on, and you know, I wanted to say something. I thought, how in the hell can you kidnap a monarch? You steal this country from Great Britain in the beginning, and it's been nothing but lies. And stand there looking at me, and he was saying those things just to get a reaction out of me, I suppose, or to make another joke out of it. So now then, so that I'm not rambling here, the next step was, and you leave out what was happening to my children, and I worked for doctors. That was what I did most of my life, was doctors, and so I decided there was a new doctor out at Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville. And come to find out, his name was Victor Gonzalez, and he had interned at, go block out the name of the stuff, it's so bad, where John Kennedy was taken in Dallas when he was shot. Um, that's that's not, oh, what's the name of that one? I can't remember. Anyway, he was then in at Redstone Arsenal. I remember calling him and asking him could he see me because I wanted to change doctors. Here I think I'm mentally ill. And I remember him saying, and it was really broken English. He was from Mexico and had moved over to Jessup, Louisiana, when he was 7 years old. And he told me, well, I'm a child psychiatrist, so I can't see you. So anyway, I'm going to skip the things that happened because they just kept on. It was so horrible. So in about 68 is when Martin Luther King was shot. And by the way, later, this is what I tried to write about, mind control use and programming people to shoot, like they did with Martin Luther King and John Kennedy, but nobody cares what they did to me. The blacks joined together with Kennedy and civil rights. I never had any because the blacks were going into South Africa with Andrew Young as ambassador to the UN because he was appointed by Jimmy Carter. So they went in and spent money and had industry going in, and it all looks good, but what they were doing was removing the British government and putting in Mandela, a black government, and in essence taking everything away from the British that they hadn't already taken. I'm going to look at the time, okay?